Live.
All right. Hey,
Hi.
how's it going?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's been a little hotter up here than usual. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Last time we were talking, you guys were having like the craziest storm ever.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's Stampede week, so it's been on
Oh
and
right.
off
Yeah.
again. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah. My family's talking about going and stuff, and friends back home are going, and I still don't care about Stampede.
yeah, that's fair enough. We went for like some lunch stuff the other day, and it was okay. It was like super cheap admission day and we had nothing else to do, so we went down for a little bit. And then the crowd started
That's
pouring
an
in
expensive
and we
lunch, I guess,
left.
though, right? Like, because you have to pay entry fee and then the lunch.
Yeah, but the entry fee was $2. It was like
Oh, okay.
cheap entry for that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was okay. Then
Yeah. I
we
saw
had
the food pics; those looked good. It made me realize I haven't had pierogies in half a decade.
right. It's so rare that I have them too. They were okay. It's like carnival food, right? So like it's not
Sure.
exactly filling, but it's tasty.
Well, when I was in college, I lived down the street from a bar that did like pierogi Wednesdays, or there was
Rogie
a deal on
Wednesday.
their pierogies. So you would go there and you would basically buy like nachos, but instead of chips, it was pierogies.
Okay, sure.
I
Yeah.
didn't do that enough. I did not go to that enough, and I regret that now.
Yeah, that sounds like it would have been real good actually.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Cool.
All right, people. Yeah, people asking about John. John is away at a convention, and I only know where he's at because someone in the chat said Anime Iowa.
I've never heard of that before, so fair enough.
Yeah, I had no idea what that was either.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't even really know he was into anime.
I'm guessing it's a invitation guest spot thing.
Maybe.
Yeah. It must be.
Um,
I don't remember him ever saying that one of his bucket list things was to visit Iowa. So,
that's true. Yeah, I don't think he's also. I can't recall Iowa being a recurring spot for
a
sure.
destination
So
spot, yeah.
I'm curious if Anime Iowa is that big or not.
I guess it must
Uh,
be enough to like hire TRG to appear or whatever.
right. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out. I don't even know when he's back. Maybe next week. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, we'll find out about that. But yeah, for this week, it's just Paul and I.
Mhm.
You saw Spider-Man though. I saw that,
I did. Yeah.
and I also saw Spider-Man. We can
Nice.
talk about some Spider-Man.
Yeah. More than anything, I guess I was just excited to see how they do maybe one of the lamest villain idea. Like Mysterio's always been a lame villain because he's just like, "Oh, I suck at being an actor, so I'm going to be evil now," or whatever, with special effects and magicry. And like
Yeah, like he just kind of messes with Spider-Man because he has no superpowers,
he's
and he's
always
just
been
like,
lame.
how can I most trick Spider-Man with like
Yeah.
sleight of hand or like it's like a Scooby-Doo villain, right?
Totally. Yeah, like I would have gone away with it if it wasn't for that middling Spider-Man sort of thing.
Um,
But
I'll say
mhm.
Mysterio was probably like my favorite part of that movie.
No, that's the
Uh,
thing is that I was just like, how do you do Mysterio in 2019 when even when he was created, he was lame? I was like, oh, right. Technology kind of makes this like make sense somehow.
yeah. We're not gonna get into spoilers for people who are getting a little worried. We won't go into spoiler territory, but
That ending is crazy. That's a
for
crazy
sure.
ending.
Are you talking about like the credit scenes and stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, those are absolutely ridiculous, super good. Um, but yeah, I like Mysterio. I thought was great. I thought they did a really good job with him.
Hmm.
I also thought Jake Gyllenhaal was did a really good job. I really enjoyed seeing him, and it made me be like, I need to watch some Jake Gyllenhaal stuff.
Oh, he kills
Uh,
it. Like everything he's in, I don't know what it is. You just know you're gonna get like a decent role from him.
yeah,
So
I loved just like the team up of Spider-Man and Mysterio together. It was like just like this is great to see. They're such good buddies. This is awesome.
yeah. My one thing about it is that I wish there was more Spider-Man versus Mysterio, because that's kind of what I wanted. They spend too much time in the trickery part, I'll say, without like spoiling anything. So yeah.
I don't say too much more. You're getting close for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's my only gripe with it, is that when that stuff starts kicking off, I'm like, see, this is what I want right here. I wanted a full movie of this. This is so good, because holy shit, it's a trip at that point. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was fun. One thing that's kind of odd, and this part's in the trailer where he's like, "Well, why not like Captain Marvel, or what about Thor?" And he says like 3 superheroes, and they give
Mhm.
a reason why they can't help out, and it's like, dude, I just watched Endgame. There's like 30 other superheroes on
Yeah,
this planet that I'm sure could help out.
yeah.
Like, one of the monsters they're going up against is literally about to melt the Earth, and you're telling me Black Panther
Isn't around to help or
isn't
whatever.
around when arguably he's probably closer than usual
Yeah.
to the threat because they're in Europe at this point.
Yeah, there's some weirdness in there that, yeah, for sure. It's so hard to talk about without like giving away some key points that people should go see
It's a
it
good
for
movie,
sure.
though.
Yeah.
I also saw another movie this weekend. I saw Yesterday, which is
Okay.
the Beatles movie.
Yeah, how is that?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's getting like average reviews. I think it's around like 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. I thought it was better than that.
Okay.
I thought it deserved to be a bit higher up there. My girlfriend and I were definitely the youngest people in the theater by 2 decades.
Sure, yeah.
Probably it was a lot of old people that wanted to see that movie, and then the two of us.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a fun movie. I just kind of liked that it wasn't like a biopic because we're getting a lot of
Yeah.
musician biopics these
Yeah.
days. What with like Rocket Man and the Freddie Mercury one, and I'm probably forgetting a couple others. There's just a lot of them are coming out.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but this one's not a biopic. It has the weird premise of what if the Beatles just didn't exist, but you remembered
Mm.
who they are, and they do some really fun stuff with that, and there's some cool twists. It's a funny movie, so I recommend Yesterday.
Cool.
So that was a good time.
Nice.
But let's move on to some not some news, some video game stuff. Let's move on to the podcast.
All right.
It's July 11th. I'm Sean.
I'm Paul.
This is the Top Down Perspective. And Paul, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you've been playing?
Yeah. So I had to put down Mario Maker 2 a little bit because Cadence was looking me in the face. I was like, I gotta finish you. Like I spent so much time in that game just exploring every tile essentially and trying to 100% it. And I'm still missing one heart piece and it's pissing me off. But I decided to finish off Cadence actually last night. And I think that game is great. That game, going back to that game was such a treat to break up the monotony of making levels and Mario stuff to like play a completely different style game again. And people should check that out. That ending is so dope. Oh my god, I love that ending so much. It's so cool. And it kind of leaves it open at the very, very end for like, well, maybe Cadence is somewhere else now. Who knows what happened?
Like show up in a different video game.
Yeah, like I thought that was
really
real neat.
interesting for sure. If we just get like more Necro Dancer games,
Yeah,
taking over,
just
whatever other franchise, that'd be
yeah,
cool.
It would be cool for sure. There's a small kind of neat little twist with one of the main villains that you find out like around the end. So I thought that was kind of neat. It's like, okay, well, that's cute, I guess. And I was agreeing with you that the second last fight is definitely harder than the last fight I felt.
Yep.
Because it's kind of like more of an endurance trial. It's long.
Yeah, quite long.
But it's neat. Like, it's a neat finish to that. And they do some cool things that you would expect with a Zelda game. Yeah, that game is just super, super cool. And people should check that out if you are into Zelda games. And, like, especially Necrodancer games. I would say it's more of, like, a Zelda skin on a Necrodancer game for sure. Yeah. Obviously.
Yep.
But,
yep.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. The other game I'll talk about because we can just kind of talk about the other two together. I played Teppen, that card game from Capcom on your phone, on
Right.
your Android or iOS device. And that thing is way better than it should be.
Oh, really? I haven't
That's
really looked into it. I wrote it off.
that is a that is a super gamey card game where so okay, I'll give you the like layout of how the game works. It's kind of like a fighting game. It's using only Capcom characters. Currently there are 8 in the game, 2 representing each like color or archetype of deck. So you have like a red deck, a green deck, a purple deck, and a black deck, essentially. The red seems to be kind of focused around building up units and doing direct damage to like have board control. Green is more combo likes and healing characters sort of things. Purple is like a trickery deck sort of thing with like a lot of stuff you can play to like swap like do like 1 more damage to the enemy than they were expecting and buff one of your characters or whatever. And black deck is very much about sacrificing something you have, your resources, to empower your other resources. Yeah. And it's kind of like a fighting game where you are pit up against another character and you're playing cards in 3 different lanes to attack the other character. So it's kind of like a little bit of Hearthstone mixed with some like of that Elder Scrolls thing a little bit.
Okay. So it is still a card game because you said it's like a fighting game. You're not.
No.
Fighting.
You're not fighting, but like you're attacking an opponent with cards, essentially.
So is it like, Slay the Spire?
It's more
Quest.
No, it's more like a Hearthstone. So you have a top, a middle, and a bottom lane, and they will always be attacking straight across, right? At like certain intervals. So you'll put down a card that say is like a 1/1, like 1 damage, 1 toughness.
1/1 what? What are you playing?
Just like it's other Capcom characters. So like a better example is like a 2/4 like Chris Redfield or whatever. And like
okay. And what are you in this universe?
You are one of 8 characters. So the characters in it are Ryu, Rathalos.
So Ryu is playing. He's like sending out a Chris Redfield.
Yeah, to attack like a Morrigan from Darkstalkers.
Okay.
And she might play like a role or something from like Mega Man.
Right.
So it's super. Yeah, it's all Capcom based. So the idea is that if there's nothing blocking in that lane, whatever damage that card does will do it directly to the player at like a certain time interval. And there's like a little line that gets drawn when you play a card that shows like how long until they attack the player or whatever. And so
So it's not. You don't have turns.
You don't have turns. It's active the whole time. Yeah. So it's very, very fast.
Quite different then.
Yeah. It's very, very fast paced. So yeah, so you would like put something down to block or whatever, or to do damage back. And no matter what happens, when that line gets to the end, if there's a card there, they'll like attack each other and like trade toughness and like attack or whatever for each other.
Right.
Yeah, it's a card game.
Like a typical Hearthstone Magic.
Yeah, but without turns. Like, it's just going all the time. And like Magic, you can play stuff in response to stuff. So, like, say that, like, I put down a card and it's about to attack a character or whatever. And then I'm just like, haha, I'm going to make this 2 more damage or whatever. And then it'll give the other person a chance to respond, and they'll be like, well, I'll negate that, and then or whatever, and then I'll be like, well, I'll negate that one, and like, so there's
is there always a response like phase, or is there a way you could just be
at like, all times if you have the mana to play it, you can go. Sorry?
Yeah, but is there a way of like, let's say you're attacking me?
Yeah.
If I'm just too slow, I'm not going to get a chance to respond, or will it pause before it hits me?
No, it doesn't pause. You just have to do it, like, you have to be ready for it, basically.
So I'm wondering, are there cards that like speed up the attack so it's
Yes.
even harder? Ah, interesting.
Not only that, but there's also cards that will speed up the next card that you play or whatever. And
Okay,
like,
sure, yeah, and combo and stuff.
yeah, exactly. It's super in depth and it's super quick, and it is one of these games that when you realize why it's free or what it is, then you realize why it's free. It's like, oh, you can buy card packs. Great. Thanks, Capcom.
Well, I mean, that's how every
Totally.
card game
It's
works.
just one of those. It's like a totally fine, fast-paced card game that you can play.
That's interesting. This is not what I expected. I should check this out.
It's actually super, super cool. I really, really enjoyed it. One of the weird things about it is that they really want to kind of keep you into like one color archetype for deck. Because like as soon as there's a story mode, it took me about 3 hours to complete completely. Yeah, every character has like a story about what's going on and why they're attacking each other. It's weird. But you play them to unlock that deck or whatever, like the basic deck, and then you can play with it or like you get the cards from it or whatever. So I built a deck after that was done. I had enough that I was able to like buy 30 decks for free at the end of the story mode. Or sorry, not decks, 30 packs for free. And it has like the basic Hearthstone mechanic of if you have doubles or whatever, you can disenchant or break down one of the cards for like a crafting material to craft other cards at a discounted rate and whatnot.
What's the most obscure character you've seen that they've put in there?
Well, here's the thing. I'll just tell you what the 8 main characters are: Ryu, Rathalos from Monster Hunter, the like flying dragon for whatever
The one that's in
reason.
Smash Bros.
Yeah, is just a playable character for whatever reason.
Okay.
Mega Man
Rathalos,
X.
they're sending out a Chris Redfield
Yeah,
to fight.
totally. Yep.
Morgan.
Or like a Leon Kennedy or something.
Yeah, okay.
Or himself. There's cards of like the main characters that are usually like one of the more expensive cards in the game, but they like do a bunch of damage. We have X from Mega Man X. I'm trying to think of the other green. Oh, Chun-Li, because you need 2 representatives from Street Fighter, I suppose. For purple, you have Morrigan from Darkstalkers and Dante from Devil May Cry. You have for the black decks, you have Albert Wesker from Resident Evil, and Nergigante is another Monster Hunter monster. It's an Elder Dragon. So they really like played into the. They have 2 representatives from Monster Hunter and 2 representatives from Street Fighter. So that's their main characters. But yeah, they get some pretty obscure characters in there. Like one of my last packs I opened, I got some. Do you remember Sean from Street Fighter? I'm sure you do because it's your name.
No.
No? Okay, so he's in there. You have like Dan, like other Street Fighter characters.
Is Phoenix Wright in there?
I haven't seen him yet. No.
Okay.
I could see that being a thing for sure. I'm just waiting.
I'm trying to think of like the weird ones that were in like Capcom versus those fighters, and like Phoenix Wright showed up in those and stuff.
Yeah, that does seem like a oversight actually. Maybe he is, and I just haven't seen it yet. I haven't played like that.
Is Dead Rising Capcom? I thought he was in one of those fighting games.
Yeah, Dead Rising is.
I don't remember. It is Capcom. So it was like Frank from Dead Rising there.
Maybe. I haven't seen all the cards yet. I'm still working on decks and whatnot. I guess the other thing is that every character has its own like hero power essentially also that you'll get after when you play cards. They have like a set mana cost. This is nothing new, but that mana cost will also go onto like an AP meter, like an attack meter. And then as soon as you hit like the threshold for that, you can do like a character attack. So for instance, those as you upgrade a character that you play a lot with, you'll get like different loadouts for that as well. So the base one for Wesker, for example, is basically just destroy an enemy minion. At some point, you can just like wipe that lane. Rathalos has like do 4 damage, I think, to an enemy. one of them, like Mega Man X's basic one, is do like restore 7 health to a friendly creature. So it's, yeah, there's different archetypes and stuff. It's really, really cool and really in depth. It's so in depth that by the end, after playing for about 3 to 4 hours, I was still discovering new mechanics I hadn't seen yet, so that some of their cards had. So it's
Cool.
It's neat. It's a neat thing, and I think a lot of people will probably write it off because it's a Capcom card game that has free to play elements on phone. And the thing is if you don't like the card game thing of buying blind packs and then like maybe not getting something you need or whatever, it's that. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to either deal with that or just not play it. But I think it's neat, and that's surprising to me. I just got it because I'm obsessed with Capcom, so I just needed to check it out and was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, hearing the unique battle thing has me interested, so I'll probably check it out now.
If nothing else, games are fast because there's constantly attacking happening. You're either going to win or lose.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing I played on my phone, Dr. Mario World came out, soft launch.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I played this as well. I think it's just out.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't really like it.
No, this is the thing I was saying too, is that I don't know what I was expecting from it, but I'm still disappointed. So
I don't. It's been a long time since I played Dr. Mario, so I've kind of forgotten. I forget how many of these things are a change, or they're the same. But first off, there's a lot of meters in this. There's so many timers and meters.
Yep.
And stuff. And I feel like I'm just kind of at the point where when I see that stuff, I'm just like, no, I'm good. Like I don't even care about dealing with this stuff. I'm just good.
Sure.
I'll pass.
For me, it's that I thought it was kind of okay to begin with, and then realized that it's like, oh, this is a baby game for babies, like literally, because, let's just explain what it is first, and then I'll get into why. So it's Dr. Mario that you play from the bottom up instead of from the top down, like his Tetris clone that it used to be or whatever.
Right. And that makes sense from like ergonomics of where your thumb would be on your phone.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's fine.
I don't like automatically just how it feels when you're like dragging it. Like, I just think it feels kind of gross, but whatever. That's whatever. You basically take the pill from the bottom that it gives you, and you have to line it up somewhere or just move it there with your finger. The one downside is you can't move backwards. So once you're like moving that pill forward, you can't like move back. So you just kind of have to have a plan for it. And you line up colors to do match 3 or more with the bugs or the viruses to kill them.
Viruses, yeah.
And yeah, that's that. You basically just have to finish the puzzle within the allotted amount of pills that they give you for it.
Yeah, so I don't know, how far did you get in Dr. Mario World?
Like stage 10.
Okay, so I'm on to World 2.
Okay.
So I think I'm about, I don't know, maybe 15 stages past you. I think there's 20 in the first world. Anyway, all the levels, and again, I this is the part I don't remember if this is in Dr. Mario or not. In all the levels on this one, it's not so much like a timing, like things are moving fast, gotta make sure that the pill goes in the right spot. It's more just like they have set up a puzzle where I need to put this one piece in that exact spot. That's usually pretty obvious because there's like a designated way to win this puzzle.
Okay, sure. I could see that.
Now, is that, if I recall right, though, original Dr. Mario, and please correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it like the pills were coming down at a pace like Tetris?
Yep.
And there wasn't like a puzzle. It was just like a bunch of mess.
Yep.
You had to like move things around.
You had to clean up. Yep.
Yeah. This, it's like they have a designated like, oh, there is a step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you're not really following those steps, it's going to just kind of get hard because you're going to make a mess. You might as well just start over and figure out what is the proper moves to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't like being able to move parts either. Like when it breaks.
After it's like split in half, you can then. And so the other thing with this one is once you've made some kind of combo, let's say you had a multicolored pill and it only used half of that pill, the other half will start falling just like it did in Dr. Mario. But you
Yeah.
can then move that one to
Yeah.
like get another combo going, which is kind of easy.
Mm-hmm. I don't like it. Like just everything that I liked about Dr. Mario is not this game, essentially. So whatever. It's obviously for a different crowd. So
Right.
and
And
it's not for
there's
me.
like a lot in this and a lot of ways to like purchase
Yeah.
in-app stuff. Like
Yeah, I saw that
there's
too.
3 different items you get.
Yep.
Those all cost like a diamond or something, which is the paid model.
Yeah.
There's you haven't gotten this yet. You get assistants, which are other
Assistance.
characters.
Great.
You get like a Goomba at the beginning, and then
Okay.
you can purchase other assistants, and they'll give you a benefit. Like the Goomba you get increases your um, score by 1%,
Mm-hmm.
which who even cares?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Who did you pick as your doctor? I guess that's like the most interesting question.
Didn't have like a choice, right?
Oh, you haven't
Right
gotten
from
to
the
it yet?
beginning.
There is a
No,
point where maybe that's World 2.
it's probably World 2.
There's a point where it's like, hey, you can now pick which doctor you want. You know,
Mm.
if you want to continue with Mario, go ahead. I picked Bowser. I'm playing as Dr. Bowser.
Uh-huh. Dr.
Because
Bowser.
so Dr. Mario's special attack is he like removes a
A
row.
line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Dr. Peach's attack is she removes a column,
Okay. Sure.
which doesn't seem as useful because there's usually more. The rows are longer than there is how tall it is, and Dr. Bowser will remove 2 lines. So it's just like, why
It's
would
just
you
like a
not
better.
use Dr. Bowser?
Yeah.
It's so much better.
I just don't like this game at all. I think it
Yeah.
feels gross to play even.
What kind of sucks though is it's always online and it's like always
Oh,
losing
really?
connection for me. Like I'll pause mid match and I'll come back and I'll be like, okay, all right, here we go. I was playing something. Oh, it lost connection, kicks me back to the world map. What?
Yeah. God, that's such a bummer. Like, I didn't actually even consider it until I think it was you and a buddy of mine, Hank, were talking about it because you commute and he lives in New York, so a lot of times he's commuting underground, and he's just been
Yep.
like, if there's like a mobile game and it needs internet all the time, I just won't bother it with it because like the time I play mobile games is on the way to work or like on the way in inner city, and it's just fucking impossible to play when I need to underground in the subway. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Like I'm usually stuck if it requires internet. I'm usually stuck having to play it like
yeah,
at work when I'm on a Wi-Fi connection
yeah,
or whatever. Like it's yeah, that's a bummer.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, I don't know. It sucks to say this because like I don't think I like. Well, that's not true. Most of Nintendo's mobile games I just don't like.
Okay,
I liked
yeah.
Mario Run, but like that's it.
See, I really
And
like Fire Emblem Heroes still, just because it's a
oh,
basic
okay.
version of Fire Emblem, like a
All
real
right. Yeah,
basic.
I'm not a Heroes fan, so but I do
Mm,
know people that are way into that one.
mm-hmm.
Did
I
you ever
thought
try
Run
out
was good too.
Dragalia Lost?
I actually enjoyed parts of it. Um,
Okay.
I couldn't get super into it though. Like, I don't know. I thought, yeah, if there's a mobile game that they release that like I'd be most into, it probably would be that if I cared about like the gotcha elements in it. So, which I don't.
That is a super gotcha game.
Yeah.
We're gonna question in the chat if I tried out the versus mode. I
Mhm.
actually haven't. I do have
Hmm.
it unlocked. Um, so maybe that's something. Maybe I should give that a try before I delete the app because I'm pretty close to deleting to that app. I don't really care enough to play it.
Yeah.
Um, also, the music's good. They got the song in there. That's great.
Totally.
But the
Yeah.
ready start
Yeah.
voice
Yeah.
is the worst. Like, oh my
Letty?
god.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
so it's like a baby girl kind of screeching at you.
Yep.
Or
Letty?
it's like that. It's like someone pretending to be a baby girl
Yep.
screeching at you, ready start. And it sucks.
It's it's bad. Yep. This is true.
But yeah, that's Dr. Mario World.
Yeah. Uh, other than that, Mario Maker, dude, still playing that.
Yeah, I've been playing Mario Maker. So I had a similar thing with you where you you wanted to play some Switch, but you're like, I need to get Cadence done.
Yeah.
I've been turning my Switch on all week, being like, all right, I'm gonna play some other stuff. I just bought No More Heroes Travis Strikes Again. I just bought Sushi Striker. I want to play some
Ooh.
Slay the Spire. Got all these games and
Yeah.
loaded up, and it's like, oh, I haven't beaten that one level I made in Mario Maker to upload it. I
Oh
guess I'll
no.
bang my head against this until that finally gets done. Um, so
Yeah.
I started that on Monday, and I beat it just before the podcast.
Oh, dope. Okay, I'll play it at some. Here's the thing: is that I tore myself away from it. Like Mario Maker's not going anywhere. Levels will keep being added. Levels will stay on there. I need to play other games. I can't just play Mario right now.
Right. And like I really wanted to play the Messengers DLC, but
Right.
I was like, I need to get this stage uploaded.
Right. Yeah.
And I finally did. Q, I'm sure you beating it in like one try, and I'm just gonna be like, God damn it, I spent so long.
No, I'm excited to see it. I've also come to the point where, as much as I like the harder levels, so like I've finally decided where I am in the like in the grand scheme of things, is I like easier hard levels where I can feel like I'm always making some progress, and that's why I think that's what like my, I guess, like skill set in gaming period is that I have, if I'm making any progress, I have the patience to see it through like forever, essentially, until it's done. And that's why I like harder games, is because as long as like it's fair enough where I feel like I'm learning how it works and I can push through it, I'll keep playing it. But some Mario Maker levels are actually on like the impossible side, where if you don't know this frame perfect trick, you're fucked and you'll never beat it. And like those are the ones I can't do. And those are the ones that have started really creeping into like the super expert mode. So I guess I'm just past the point of being able to play that mode anymore. So I'm gonna go down to expert and probably have some fun. And so like I appreciate when it's people I know making hard levels, because they usually make the right amount of difficult that I like, because I know that they have to beat it and they're not like some super genius Mario speedrunner that I'll never like be able to catch up to, right? So
Sure.
I basically am saying that I hate endless mode and I just like playing the levels people send me at this point.
Right. Yeah, I'm mainly just playing like my friend stages, but I'm not even like looking for like challenge in any way. I want to just see some like cool ideas.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what I want to do. I'll say Patrick Klepek wrote an article over on, I guess it's Vice Gaming now. About like it was like 10 stages he had found that did something kind of cool or unique. One of them is like a Metroid stage,
Okay.
like straight up,
Yeah.
which that's the kind of things that are interesting that I'm seeking out now.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's also how I'm kind of making my stages. Is I'm like I want to build something all around this mechanic or this one
Yeah.
concept, and it's going to be the new stuff now. Like I really want to do an upside down stage. I want to do
Yeah.
like my last one. I wanted to do a don't touch the ground one, and I did that. So
Okay.
I want to mess around with like the new kind of weird stuff.
I know my next stage is going to be a low grav one somehow. I just don't know how.
Yeah, I'd like to do a low gravity one as well. Yep. Yep.
I just don't know how in my mind that I'm going to parse that yet. The last stage I made was one that was meant to be accessible by literally everybody, and I thought it was okay. I thought it was an okay level. It's just a ghost
I don't know
house
if I've
one.
played it yet. I think I downloaded it.
It's
I
a
don't think
ghost
I've played
house
it yet.
one, with the like you can't see that far ahead of you thing. But I tried to make it
I don't
fair
think
so that like as long as you don't run through it like an idiot, you should be able to like beat it and see some stuff. So that was the idea, anyways. And like I said, my girlfriend beat it. Like I got her to play test it before I uploaded it, and she beat it and was like, "Yeah, it was fine. It was not hard at all."
Yeah, this stage I just put up. I actually had a friend play test it first because I was like, hey, why don't you give it a try? And if you beat it, then like it's uploaded and I'm free.
Yeah.
But he's not very good at it. But he found like a shortcut, and I was like, oh man, I'm glad you tried that. I need to like wall that off because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want people doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So playtesting can be fun as well.
Yeah. And I also decided to start uploading videos of the levels after I make them, of like how to play through them. Mainly because
Okay.
I like one of the like Mario Maker community YouTubers ran across one of my levels, and I was like, this is kind of neat, and shared it in my own personal Discord. And then like a bunch of people were like, hey, that's a cool level and whatnot and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh right, people don't buy this game sometimes, and they like seeing Mario stuff, or they don't want to play through a level that's a little too difficult for them, and they might want to see how the stage is played. So like I'll just do this with like all of the stages. So if people are like, there's no way I'll ever play that, but it looks neat, then it's like, well, there it is. You can just see how that stage is supposed to go. Or if you're like playing through it and you're like, I don't get why you have this setup like this, then I'll just be like, well, just watch the video, like what I was thinking about or whatever.
Sure.
And yeah,
Yep.
so I decided to
I
do that.
mentioned it on the last week's show. I'll plug it again in case maybe you missed it. There's a section on our Discord now all about Mario Maker 2 where people are trading levels.
Yeah,
So if that's something you want to check out and you want to share your own stuff or just find some other levels, definitely jump on the Discord and check in there.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
Let's do some news.
Okay.
I guess let's start with the big one. The Nintendo Switch Lite was
Yeah,
announced on yesterday.
yeah,
Had been rumored for a while. We were getting like peripheral, like accessories and cases, mock-ups leaking out.
yep,
But we got the full-on release. We got the price. We got the date. We got all the features. So let's just kind of run through that.
sure.
First off, it's called the Nintendo Switch Lite, Lite.
Mm-hmm.
It is handheld only, like we expected.
Yep.
Doug Bowser came out and said this is the only new Switch coming out this fall. So don't expect the other rumored one of like a more powerful Switch.
Right.
Is in far as of American prices, it's $100 cheaper. So this one's 200 as opposed to 300,
Right.
which seems good. That's $100 off is definitely really a good sell. What else? Joy Cons, they can't be removed, so it is a one piece. It is a PlayStation Vita,
Right.
which I've been seeing a lot of jokes of like, why did the Vita not work? They literally made a Vita.
Yeah. True. Because of that, and like the Joy-Cons not being their own separate thing, they don't have the HD rumble or the IR. Like they're completely unremovable. They're just there to like control stuff. They are not special in any way, basically.
Right. Also because of that, because they can be removed, it actually gets a full-on D-pad on the left side.
Yeah.
Which is cool, and
Yep.
something that I wish I had because
Yep.
playing Mario sucks with the D-pad the Switch currently has.
Yep.
It's smaller, just like like a little bit smaller, very little bit smaller. It's lighter. They do tout it has better battery, but the numbers they gave it's literally like half an hour more.
Yep.
So you can barely call it better.
Yep.
There's also no kickstand, and like now you can't play on tabletop mode. That's my favorite Switch mode.
Yep. It's true.
So this is garbage, is what I'm trying to say.
And also only games that support handheld mode. So I think that's all of them so far, but that's something to be aware
No,
of.
there is a list of games that are not
Compatible.
used. I haven't looked it up. I can't. I'm trying to see if there's a link on here. I know it's the smallest. I know it doesn't support Labo, which makes
Right.
sense because that was like removing Joy Cons and stuff and sliding the thing in. Because it is smaller and you can't remove it, you cannot put it in the dock. In fact, there's no way to connect it to the TV.
Right.
Which I think that's surprising.
Yep.
I assumed they would have kept that feature at least.
That's kind of the thing that I like about it, is being able to make the Switch that easy,
Yeah,
that
like
easily.
the name is the Switch. Even if you couldn't remove the sides, like I still think there would have been a use case for dock this one, and
Yep.
I also own a Pro controller.
Totally.
But this is exclusively handheld, so yeah, I don't know. It definitely seems like if you have a Switch, don't buy one of these, but it might be a
Totally.
good first Switch.
Totally. Yeah.
Like I cannot justify getting one of these in any way.
Yeah. the way I could, and I know that this isn't a thing with this, is that if it's somehow synced to your normal Switch as like just the portable one, and it's just like, okay, well, my normal Switch is dead and I'm leaving, so I'm gonna plug this in and just like grab the Switch Lite that's been like charging or whatever, like like literally switch between them, like, but
Oh, that's why it's still called the Switch. Okay, because you're supposed to have two.
I know that like they won't talk to each other. There's probably no syncing that works with them. Yeah,
They have come out and said at the moment, you can't transfer stuff.
right.
But and again, Bowser was tweeting this, that they are working on a way of being able to transfer stuff. He didn't get
Okay.
into details if that meant like, easy syncing between the two, or if it's like we're working on a process where you can do like a like one-way direction transfer to a new Switch, and that's the end of that.
Oh, that's the wrong way to go about it in my opinion, but yeah.
That's probably what they're gonna do though, because it was
Yeah.
that was the case for like anytime you bought like a 3DS or whatever. It was
Yep.
all right, you're moving over, so transfer everything, and then your old one, give it away to someone, I guess.
Yep.
Again, though, the original Switch, like it's designed to be portable too, so I really don't see the case of one person owning both of these. I
Agreed.
can't see it.
Yeah.
I don't think that would happen. Honestly, I think the only advantage this one has is the colors are
The
nice.
colors. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's got yellow, turquoise, and gray, which I think is the lamest of the three.
Yeah.
That's just me, but like I think that yellow one looks real snazzy.
What do you think of that Pokemon one?
It's okay. I'm not a huge fan of like game specific consoles ever.
I like the like
and
red
again,
and blue sides, like the buttons on the
with
white.
the buttons, I do like that. Again, I'm
Yeah.
not a huge fan that it's gray. That's just like the
Yeah.
most boring. Like I would myself, I would prefer black or white or that. I think a white Switch,
Yeah.
that would look nice.
Yeah.
I think that would look very nice. And it would remind me of the white Vita that looks awesome. You guys remember the Vita? That was a good console. It's like the Switch Lite,
Yeah. It's
except
true.
people actually want it.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Yeah. True.
If people want some more specific details on like the sizing, they can obviously check out Nintendo. But like I said, it is pretty close to the same size as the Switch itself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad it's $100 cheaper. I could have seen them going like $50 cheaper.
Yep.
There's not a ton of differences.
Yeah. This might be
I'm
okay if like you had your own Switch and you had a kid and they like were always like grabbing it or something. You're like, F off, here's your own for Christmas or something.
Right. Like it seems like, this is for a different person.
Totally.
Or this is for someone who like if you didn't care about the docked one, which I play my Switch probably like 90% of the time handheld.
Uh-huh.
Like if I was getting a Switch, maybe the handheld one is the one to go with. Like that's how I'm using it.
Yeah.
I know for me personally, I would want the fully featured one.
For sure.
But if you're the kind of person who's playing it like I am, kind of maybe. I don't know. Like I'm glad it exists. There's no reason it shouldn't exist.
Sure.
Personally though, I'm waiting for a more powerful Switch. I want more features.
Yep.
I'm actually kind of surprised the Switch Lite doesn't have more features, considering the Switch is 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And like this seems like they could have made it like they could have put Bluetooth in this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of stuff like that, like a brighter screen, or because the more I play my Switch, the more I'm like, man, I hope the Switch 2 has these things. Like I wish it got dimmer, because it's still really bright when I'm playing like in bed at night. I wish I could make it even dimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Just like kind of quality of life stuff like that. I wish the Switch could do.
Sure.
And I'm surprised the Lite doesn't have that kind of stuff in there.
Yeah. True.
And this it's coming out September 20th, which is the release date for Zelda.
I see.
So
okay,
that's when that's coming out. And like you mentioned, there is a Pokemon one that is not coming out at launch. It is coming out at the time of Pokemon.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they had to get this thing out before Pokemon, right? This is the Pokemon machine, in as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Like it's probably going to
Pokemon is
be
driving this.
installed in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you have a Switch Lite and Pokemon's not in there, then I have to assume you're not a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this is the Pokemon machine.
Yep.
Pokemon wasn't coming out this year. The Switch Lite would not be coming out this year. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, let's move on to a bit of other news. So like I said, the Messenger DLC dropped today. I only put that on here because I didn't know that. Was that a surprise drop or did they always have a date?
They had a date.
Okay, it was a surprise to me, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. Free DLC. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
I'm in for sure.
Psychonauts 2 has been delayed to 2020.
Okay, that's fine.
Which I also don't remember if this had a date.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. That's for sure.
The date is now 2020. So
sure, whatever they need to make it good. Fine.
What was this? A Xbox Germany apparently posted a video on their Facebook page announcing Final Fantasy VII Remake for the Xbox One on March 3rd, 2020.
Okay.
Which who knows? It could be a mistake, could not be. That's exciting for me because I would rather play it on the Xbox.
Do you think because there was supposed to be an exclusivity, like not deal, but like a coming out first, right? Yeah, debut on PlayStation 4. Do you think that maybe just doesn't like have any effect in other places other than America? Like, is that a North American only thing? Those like
I have no idea.
Deals?
Isn't the PlayStation date also March 3rd though?
Yeah, that's why I'm like, that's weird that it's coming out on the same day. I thought one
right. So there something must be wrong here because even if it's not exclusive, I'm pretty sure it does have like first on PlayStation.
Yeah.
So the Xbox date has to be different.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
There's something here is amiss.
Maybe just an error in print or whatever.
Yeah, what I'm assuming is whoever made this video, they knew they needed to make it for the Xbox, but they accidentally put the PlayStation's date on there. Who knows? But more word about that is interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Cuphead is getting a Netflix cartoon.
Oh, when I saw this, I freaked out. I was like, yes.
Which is interesting, yeah, for sure. It's so again, Netflix cartoon. It's going to be done in the style of Cuphead, so the old animation style, which makes the most sense. What's super interesting is it's being done by Kingfisher Syndicate, which are the license holder to Popeye and Betty Boop. So like they know
that's
this
legit. Animation. Yeah, that's some legit stuff.
That's a good match.
Yep. And apparently it's not a little kid's cartoon.
That makes sense. Yeah. Cuphead, it seems there's a darkness to Cuphead.
Yep.
Like that shopkeeper is gross and would terrify anyone. That voice is weird. I hope there's some of that stuff in the show of just some gnarly audio where it's like, oh God, how did they make this noise?
Yep. Agreed.
Creators Chad and Jared, Moldenhauer say it's not a little kid's cartoon and that will expand upon the same kind of vibe that the game hints at.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the first game is all about you collecting souls to like pay off your debt to the devil. So,
yeah. I guess the easy joke here is like, so do we have to like keep watching the first episode over and over again because we die? Because it's so hard.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, this last little bit of news is super weird.
Yeah.
So I wanted to include it.
Oh wow, okay, so, I haven't seen this yet. Okay.
Yeah, so let me tell you it. So I don't want you so we get the reaction for real.
Yeah.
Okay, so HQ, people remember HQ. Scott Rogowski, it was a trivia game show.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna kind of briefly read this Macrumors article. HQ Trivia has decided to lay off a chunk of its staff, about 20%, which means it's only about 5 people. They were only ever up to like 35 people.
Sure.
So they're laying off some of their staff. In the wake of this, and in HQ's popularity going lower and lower, HQ Trivia has a spin-off game, I guess, called HQ Words, which I don't know.
Okay.
And that's And here's the news story. HQ Words is launching a monthly subscription to their game for $10 a month.
Ugh. Yeah.
The Wheel of Fortune style game will introduce the new model in August, along with bigger prizes and more ways to win for those who pay the subscription fee. Could you imagine in 2019 paying $10 a month
Yeah.
to something HQ branded?
No.
Not even HQ proper, but the spin-off game.
Yeah. That's crazy to me. That's fucking crazy. The thing is that it's so predicated on enough people doing it.
This article, because
Okay.
this is a separate news story, but it was also just like, wow, I have not been paying attention to HQ.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just going to read it verbatim off this article. HQ Trivia is said to have had a rocky first half of 2019, with co-founder and CEO Colin Kroll's death in December of 2018, leading into co-founder Russ Yusupov gaining control. Staff apparently disliked Yusupov's leadership, as he allegedly allowed the product to stagnate and popularity to decline. So many employees got behind a petition to have him removed as CEO. Yusupov learned of the petition and fired 2 of its leaders, further sinking morale at the company. The board is reportedly still looking for a new CEO. You can subscribe to this company for $10 a month this August.
Great. Crazy. Absolutely insane.
$10 a month. That's like Game Pass. That's arguably more than Game Pass, since that thing's like $1 to join at all times. That's like Netflix.
Yep. I'm trying to think of some other stuff.
Hulu's free if you have a Spotify subscription, which I believe is $5 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So you could subscribe to HQ Words, or you could subscribe to both Hulu and Spotify Premium twice.
This is stupid. Wow. All right. Well, I'm interested to see how many people do it, and like maybe they'll be like, we have a like 500,000 prize pot going on Friday or whatever. Like, who knows? They're just becoming the new lottery, essentially.
I guess. I guess if it's like a Wheel of Fortune style thing, I don't know. This is just absurd to me, so I wanted to get this out there.
It's crazy. Yeah.
If you're a listener and you subscribe to this, write in. I want to hear your experience, because there's no way I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
I mean, also no way you should do this.
You could subscribe to the top tier Patreon for TDP Plus.
That's true. You can
for the price of this.
Unfortunately, you're not going to win any money for doing that, but at least you're voting with your dollar.
Yeah, exactly. Which is maybe more important, really.
All right, let's do some questions. If people want to send questions in, it's topdownperspective@gmail.com, at TDP Podcast on Twitter. Excuse me. The Discord channel and John's P.O. Box.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read this first one from, and we got it corrected, it's JSNay20.
Okay.
When it comes to critiquing a game, how much do you think money should come into play? Do you feel like you should be more critical for a full price game because of the investment someone would be putting in?
Absolutely. Money is the most important part, first of all, which is why I'm so easy on free to play games usually. I don't like gross payment models in free to play games that like prey on people, but I'm usually like, when it comes to the quality of the product, I'm usually more okay with stuff in free to play games than a fully priced thing, because at the end of the day, these are products that we're like talking about and quote unquote reviewing. They're not like, they're a thing that you spend money on, and they're like a luxury item that isn't important to have, so that's like super important to talk about.
Okay, to play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
When you're looking at like 2 pieces of art, like let's say like in a gallery, the cost never comes into mind.
Right, unless I'm buying them.
Right, but you're just experiencing. Let's say that. Like I think what's also worth to keep in mind is, with all these subscription models, that completely changes things now.
Yeah, in that case, you're reviewing again, just like not the game itself, but like, is it better to get PS Plus or PlayStation Plus or like Game Pass or
Right, but I mean,
whatever?
there's an easy distinction there because you can just see like what does each one offer,
Mm-hmm.
like what you're actually getting access to. But like, if let's say you were reviewing two games that are on Game Pass,
Okay.
so now they're both free.
Mm-hmm.
Does the price come into play because you can buy them outside of Game Pass?
Yeah, for sure. It still does.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's definitely something kind of interesting there, and it's it's if you think of like free to play games, there's a lot of kind of mechanics involved with like hooking you at first, making everything seem super nice and easy at first, and
Mm-hmm.
then slowly bringing in the in-app purchases and bringing in the timers. I saw that with Dr. Mario World. You have unlimited plays for the
Yeah.
first world. Once you get to the second world, you have 5 plays, and then have to wait 20 minutes for your hearts to
At that point, I
yeah.
think you should be more critiquing the predatory nature of that model more than the price that you would pay to like be able to play that thing.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And there's an argument for like, can I just pay my way out of this and just get the full experience without that? The
Mm-hmm.
point I was trying to make though is that model has shaped how free to play games now look. You wouldn't have
Uh-huh.
seen a game being designed in this way when mobile games first came out because they didn't
Yeah.
know that. So you now with all these subscription models, I'm sure that's shaping how game developers are making their games
Yeah.
because they no longer like for example, like Gears 5. There's no longer a $60 entry point to that game. For a lot of
Right.
people, there's a $1 entry point for that game. So that means
Right.
they're going to be getting a lot more people that may have not cared about Gears up to this point. Like so that which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, no, it's weird how that stuff has kind of shifted for sure.
uh to get on like my own opinion, I think you do have to take it into account the price sometimes.
Yeah.
It's because like that is how people are going to get the game. Uh and it's hard because you don't want to. You want to like experience it outside of everything and just look at the game for what it is.
Yeah.
But when like I'm trying to think of ones that I didn't think were a great deal. I personally think Cadence of Hyrule is a bit too much money for how long I spent with it. And this is going to be on a case by case basis, obviously.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Um, I've said it before. Like $20 to me it means something different to $20 to me 10 years ago.
Sure.
Um,
Yep.
so back then, if I could buy one game of $20, I probably wanted it to last longer than now. Where I have a steady job. $20, I can. It's okay if the game only lasts me like 3 hours.
Sure.
So I mean, it's going to be different per person. So it almost to me, I want to almost say it doesn't matter because you're never going to be able to have like a general baseline of what the dollar value means to everyone.
Mm.
And I think at that point, if it's a review, if you're trying to say that, you have to kind of make that clear. And easy ways to do that are comparing them to similar games in the genre or
Sure.
similar games in the price. But I mean, again, that's almost not fair because like Stardew Valley is pretty cheap. There's a ton to do in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Journey he launched at the same price. That game is 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
And who am I to say like so clearly this one's better? You know what I mean? Like,
How do you feel
I actually
about
don't know.
games that like, let's just say an open world game of like a nondescript open world game where the actual it's a $60 American or $80 Canadian like full price game. The actual content that you can tell was like their mainline thing is maybe like 10 hours worth of like stuff, and then there's like 100 hours of bullshit that doesn't matter to keep people busy. Like
Right,
where's
for padding, and that could be in like
yeah.
a narrative focused single player game too. There could just be
Yeah.
like padding in there.
So like
Um,
what does price have to play in there, right? Where it's like, well, I'm getting a bunch of stuff, but none of it matters, I
right,
guess.
but you don't know that could be what someone wants.
Right,
Someone could
exactly.
literally be going to a game just because I just want literally a carrot on the stick.
Uh-huh.
That's just what I'm gonna chill out at night, and that's what I want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's where a lot of reviews become useful is they need to kind of make the case of like, look, this is what the game is presenting,
Yeah.
and it's up to you to decide
If you
is
can
that worth
afford it.
$60 for you.
Yeah. Like, what if Cadence of Hyrule was $60?
That'd be it. Obviously, would be a hard sell
Yeah.
for sure. But I'm sure there are tons of people out there that loved that game, and they were like, "Yeah, I would still pay $60. Necrodancer is my favorite game, and this is
Sure.
Necrodancer 2." You know what I mean?
But like, I guess it depends. Like, what are you critiquing at that point? Because if you're critiquing it as a product, that's a terrible product. That's a bad price point for what you're getting, just period. But like, if you're critiquing what it is, yo, do you like Necrodancer? Because if you do, you'll love this. Like,
Okay, so yeah, kind of working through this. I think you shouldn't take the price into account. I think it should definitely be something mentioned,
mm-hmm,
and then but you need to say, is the content here worthwhile? This is what the content was. As the reviewer, this is how I feel about how each part of the content worked for me. You know, I
mm-hmm,
felt like this just felt like padding. Here's
sure,
what it was. Because someone reading that could be like, oh, well, that actually sounds like what I want.
uh huh,
And the price, I would pay that for that. This kind of gets into the conversation of like, how much would you pay for a sequel to your favorite game of all time? And that's going to be
right,
different for everyone. It's going to be different for the game,
mm-hmm,
but right? Because comparing games price wise is so difficult. You can't compare an open world game to a puzzle game. They're completely different.
mm-hmm,
So I guess I fall on the like the price should not be a huge point of whether this game is good or bad. I guess
mm-hmm.
like I don't think I would ever say like this game is bad because it's too expensive.
Oh, I would definitely do that though, myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think at the end of the day, games are like when games are best for me, it's when you are sitting down with it playing it. It is a product you are enjoying. Like even narrative games, I think like there's something to you making the choices and seeing through it yourself, even though you could go to YouTube and watch like somebody that you like play it or whatever on Twitch or any of this sort of stuff. You could enjoy any game for free or the content, but like I think that just as a product, they're like you need to get your hands in there. And I'll be more lenient to something if there's an easy way to it. Like you said, I'm probably going to be pretty easy on Gears 5 because that thing is going to be cheap for me, you know, and for people. But so like that is definitely the wrinkle that gets added where things go on sale all the time. There's like easy paths to games now, basically, that there weren't before. But I think at the end of the day, they're still a product, and there should be kind of a ratio balance of like what you get when you pay money as opposed to like the quality of it sort of thing. But yeah,
Right. I mean, I agree with you that like you are paying for something, you should get something for that.
sure.
But I don't want to say like think of this for example. If you're willing to say make the price high enough, I will now say that game is a bad game. Would you do
Mhm.
that for your favorite game of
Yeah,
all time?
absolutely. It's still a product at the end of the day.
Okay, yeah, I totally don't agree, but
Hmm.
that's fair enough.
If like I'm trying to think of a game that I really if Shadow of the Colossus was a $200 game, that game that's fucking dumb. That's stupid and they should feel bad and it's garbage at that point. Because
I just don't see how that decreases like the game design of that game. Like the marketing
the art to me
obviously
isn't
is bad,
important. It's the product. You can't
but the product
experience
hasn't changed. Just the price tag has.
but you can't experience it. People can't experience the product if they can't afford it.
So what about this? Let's say you spent $200 on Shadow of Colossus. You're
Sure.
saying this is a bad game. Someone finds a copy of Shadow of the Colossus
Yeah.
outside.
Like on the
So
ground.
they paid zero for it.
Yeah.
How the game is no different in any way,
Sure.
but you would have to still say it's bad. It's the
It
same
is.
game.
Yeah, you're right. It's still a $200
The
thing
price is now zero.
that one person either was able to find or steal or whatever. Because like I really believe gameplay comes before like narrative. you have to be able to feel the thing. That's why I don't like watching like YouTube videos on games, why I like to play them myself. So
Okay,
at the end of the day,
gameplay, you're saying price comes before that, though.
well, price is part of that, right? Like I need to experience it in my hands. How much am I going to pay? And that barrier has been lowered by stuff like Game Pass, but it's still there for me.
Okay, agree to disagree. Yeah, I'm complete opposite. So
Okay, next question comes from VGC Kenny. Video games don't seem to have an issue that a lot of other media suffers from. That is, there's no video game equivalent to there's no band better than the Beatles, or there's no movie better than Citizen Kane, and so on, at least to the extent that those are praised. The closest I can think of is Ocarina of Time, but even then I don't think it's that ubiquitous. Do you think it has more to do with the fact that video games definitively continually improve over time, or more to do with the fact that most of the older people in the video game community grew up hearing that kind of talk and grew sick of it and decided to leave it behind? So, here's the thing. If you weren't around when Undertale came out, you wouldn't be asking this question, because holy shit, people way overhyped that thing. And that was like a couple years ago. This definitely happens with video games. I guess it's just rabid fan bases.
Ocarina of Time is probably the one most people would agree on as that or maybe Link to the Past or Tetris or Super Mario World. Those are like the only ones I can think of that a majority of the people might say is the best game of all time.
Sure.
One of those four, I guess.
And also,
those are the ones I would just hear the most.
And also, I've met people that don't like the Beatles at all, and I personally don't like Citizen Kane. So like, it's all just like bullshit, just people say, basically. So,
right. But I think what he means is the Beatles and Citizen Kane, they do have a there is a presence around them that they have accumulated this kind of title.
Right.
So whether you agree with it or not, enough people have said it is the kind of point.
I think the difference here, though, is that social media and just being connected has changed this completely. I don't think the Beatles would have been as big in our day and age if they had social media to like people detracting it and people agreeing that the Beatles suck. Like, I think it very much has to do with stuff at a point used to get so big that it was just kind of shoved in your face, and then people would like the mob mentality sort of thing of like being part of the conversation, whatever, or they like, I don't know. It's one of those things that we have so much stuff right now that everybody kind of split up equally. Like, what if, I'm trying to think of, what if we got like 10 games a year or whatever? You know what? Let's even make this lower. What if we got 10 games a month instead of like 500, you know? Like, of course, one of those is going to be the greatest for that month sort of thing. I think it's just one of those things that there's so much, the point of entry into like creating stuff has made it so that people are able to try new things and kind of spread out. There's no more just like, this is the big thing right now, because everything has its own following.
Yeah, I would think you with your social media comment that maybe the opposite might be true, because
it could spread easier.
Well, it can spread easier now. So, you know, you put something out there, it's really easy to get a whole bunch of eyeballs on it because of the internet. Whereas the Beatles and Citizen Kane, they were able to get this status despite it being so much harder to share it. And I think that's a feat on its own, you know what I mean? I do agree, though, that I think the quantity has increased. And then along with that, the number of people, you know, playing games has obviously increased because it is easier to get games. You know, genres are becoming muddy, so it's easier to find like a really niche thing that is really like, this is perfect for you.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
Like if I asked you right now, what is the best pinball Metroidvania of all time? Like, you can get really specific instead of just saying like there's no like video game better than blank or whatever, you would say something like, instead of like there's no band better than the Beatles, you would say maybe at some point it became there's no rock band better than the Beatles, or there's no whatever. Like I think we started specifying more and more because people just like to categorize things like that, and video games have gotten to that point.
I think also part of this question is kind of like if we were to ask, quote unquote everyone, what's the best game of all time? Why would it be Ocarina of Time? Why would it be such an older game? I don't want to play Ocarina of Time anytime soon. If I'm going to play any Zelda,
Yeah,
Ocarina of Time is very low on that list.
sure.
But I would still probably say Ocarina of Time before a lot of the Zeldas I'd rather play. And like, why? Do you know? I don't know if you're the same, but like, why is that? Do you know at least what I'm getting at here?
Like if you said like what's the most famous Zelda game, for example, or whatever, or like the one that people say is whatever, even though it's not your favorite, you would still agree that it's that one.
Right. I'll put it. I'll try and put it in terms the another way. What do you think is the best game of all time?
Like honestly, I think if you were to ask that question in this context, it's Tetris, because
Seriously, okay.
Mhm.
If you had the choice of playing like a Tetris right now, would you play original Tetris or would you play a different one?
So yeah, that's the thing, is that at the end of the day, it's the same game just with more bells and whistles added to it. So that's why that's a weird, I know what you're getting at. So Tetris is actually a weird thing in that I don't think that there's like a comparison, because even like Puyo Puyo or whatever, like Tetris likes, I would still always rather play Tetris. Any form of it, essentially.
Me personally, like I'd probably rather play Tetris Effect over original Tetris.
Sure, but you're still playing Tetris is what I'm getting. That's why this is a bad example for what you're getting at. But yeah, Ocarina of Time, I know what you're talking about. Like, I don't want to play Ocarina of Time anytime soon. But if somebody said the best 3D Zelda, it's probably that. Although my opinion is like Majora's Mask, but I know what, like, I would still say the one that people talk about is Ocarina. For sure.
Yeah, so like I'm kind of wondering like
why?
And more people have got to have played. Do you think more people have played Ocarina of Time than they have like Breath of the Wild or
No.
like a newer Zelda?
Oh, well, like
See, I actually don't know, because
yeah,
there's more opportunity to play Ocarina of Time,
right,
but there's more gamers now.
right, exactly. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'd be interested to see, like, so here's the thing, right? I hope when we die that there's like any stat you wanted to know or whatever, you can just now know. This is a stat that I would want to know.
Oh, like in the afterlife, there's like a supercomputer.
Yeah.
You just look it up.
Yeah.
But and specifically with Zelda, like if someone was to ask me like which Zelda's better, I'd probably say Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda. But it's still, for some reason, I would put Ocarina of Time as one of the best games of all time. I just kind of know that. It's just kind of like a thing. Much like I just kind of know that people say Citizen Kane is the best movie of all time. And it's weird. Like I almost want to think like does it have to be old? Does it have to be old enough to kind of gain like a monumental status in some way?
I think it has to be groundbreaking in some way. I think might be the thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd say all three were groundbreaking in their time for sure.
I think it has to be easily accessible by a lot of people. It has to be groundbreaking, and it has to stand the test of time, right? Like, it has to have so many qualities of it that are unique that melt together to make it.
Well, hang on. I don't know about your test of time. Didn't we just have a conversation about how we don't want to play Ocarina of Time right now?
Yeah, but it stood the test of time.
It did not stand the test of time.
Right, but you could if you hadn't experienced it yet. Like, we don't want to because we've done it already. For somebody's first time.
I think someone playing an N64 copy of Ocarina of Time right now would have a bad time.
You think so? Maybe.
I think so. I think maybe. I don't see that being good.
Yeah, and maybe.
I personally would not recommend that. I would obviously recommend the remake because I know like playing the N64 will be awkward and it will look like crap. It's an N64 game.
Yeah, it has a quality about it that I think some people get into, but I generally agree. It looks pretty bad.
Yeah, part of me thinks like, are we just like too close to in
Yeah.
any of these art forms? Like, I don't think any movie recently anyone is saying this is the best movie of all time. Like, wouldn't that just be insane to hear?
Yeah. I mean, like, I know what he's getting at his question, but when I see somebody say there's no movie better than Citizen Kane, I think that's like crazy talk. But yeah, I I don't know what it is. It's weird. This is like a super odd question to think about, and like how it relates to video games in
Yeah,
general.
it makes me think like age has to be a part of it in some kind of way.
It definitely, Kimberly in the chat said it definitely has to be an iconic thing, and it definitely has to be groundbreaking. I think that is just a must. It has to change fundamentally how something works or progress the medium for it to even start getting into that territory.
I feel like groundbreaking kind of goes hand in hand with iconic because we will
Sure.
remember it
Yep.
as things changed after this. Like, I'm always going to remember PUBG for making that genre. I'm always going to remember Fortnite.
Uh
Like,
huh.
because the gaming world is different from when those two games got popular.
Sure. Or Halo. Console shooters fundamentally changed forever when Halo came out.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why we can easily remember these things.
Uh huh.
Um,
But
but
then
and
what
like
makes
going with the
Halo
other mediums,
like?
like if anyone came up to me and
Mhm.
told me a movie from the last 5 years or like a song from the last 5 years and said this is the best blank of all time, I would go, "You're insane! How can you even say that?
Yeah.
That that just seems like such a weird phrase to say."
That's where it definitely has to be old. It has to have been around enough that like other stuff has come up to challenge it and maybe failed somehow.
Sure, that's a good point. Yeah, and that I guess that's the standing the test of time thing. So then I ask you, what is the exact length, like age it needs to be?
3.5 years.
No way. I just said within five. Yeah,
um, I don't know. Do you think like it? I think there has to be enough time that a new generation could have experienced it for the first time. So maybe 15 to 20 years minimum.
I mean, what do you mean by generation of like of people?
Yeah, of people.
15. Okay, so like
Like I'm trying to think what
so
happened in like the
what
early
happened 15
2000s.
years ago? Like put yourself 15 years ago.
2004. Okay. I mean grad year basically. Um, what was big during graduation?
I would have been like in junior high.
You know what?
Uh,
There, Google exists and is a tool.
like
So
tell me the what was the big game for 2004?
yeah, that's what I'm looking up here. Oh, Half-Life 2.
Okay, that's an extremely good example. Arguably, that's unfair because
Yeah.
that's a huge example.
Yeah.
You tell me one other game.
Oh, World of Warcraft?
Okay, apparently 2004 was a banger. It was just dropping bangers, top of the charts.
Okay. Let's
Um,
I'll be a little more real. There's actual real bangers here. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Halo 2. Like,
Jeez,
yeah,
2004, man.
I'm
Wow.
trying to find something that like might be there. There's a lot of bad sequels.
Okay, what about 2003? Go one year
Metal Gear
earlier.
Solid 3 might be the best one. Anyway, okay, 2003. Let's see. 2003, Call of Duty.
Okay, this is a better example.
Sure.
No one's
Yeah.
talking about Call of Duty 1, but it started that franchise.
You're right. Yeah, that's true.
People, I feel like the only Call of Duty people are talking about is 4 in terms of like length of time.
Sure. Yeah. And that was only 12 years ago, roughly, maybe 13.
I want to say 2008. Not that it really matters.
Okay. Yeah.
11 years or so. Uh,
I would say between 10 and 20 years then might be. I
well, I
don't.
mean, I would still say Call of Duty 4 is important. Like things
Yeah.
shifted.
Yeah, for sure.
But getting to our original point of a generation, like I don't think kids today give a shit about Call of Duty 4.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know that actually.
And
Probably.
that's another thing. Like, do you think kids today, going back to the original question, do you think kids today still have the idea of Ocarina of Time is the Zelda?
I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, always we have no idea about any of this. We're all just
Yeah.
speculating. I would be surprised to hear if I talked to a kid, let's say like, 12 years old. So they're not too young. They're not. They're still a kid.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they said, "Oh yeah, Ocarina of Time is like the Zelda." I just know that. Of course, I know that.
So,
I bet
uh,
they've never even played Ocarina of Time.
so another thing that has to happen here is that it has to be okay. So it has to be groundbreaking and iconic. It goes hand in hand with that. It has to kind of stand the test of time, and it has
I
to
think
be.
what I was getting at is
Mhm.
you mentioned it earlier was accessible.
It has to be accessible, and I think it has to be that it was so good at the time and so like new or changing in some way that it got people to continuously talk about it and pass it on. Because
I
like,
think also though it needs to.
mhm.
Well, I don't know. Then this might be unique to video games because I was gonna say for the other ones, like it needs to still be good when you go to it now.
I think that's a
Because like
video
if you
game
go
thing.
listen to a Beatles song, it's
Yeah,
gonna sound the same as it did back then. Arguably, it's gonna sound better just because of technology. But I'm not gonna say it's not gonna sound worse.
sure.
Um, and you're gonna hear that song and be like, cool.
Uh huh.
For video games, you're gonna go play Ocarina of Time right now. It's gonna look like garbage unless they've re-released it. That's kind of a bit of a different gray area. You
Yeah.
kind of get into other stuff because re-releases aren't always the best. Some games don't age well. Like I mentioned Burnout Paradise. That remaster wasn't amazing.
This
It
is
made it feel
actually the
old.
answer because his question is his thing starts with video games don't seem to have an issue that a lot of other media suffers from. I think it's because the way you had originally taken my stand the test of time thing. I think that's just a unique thing to video games, which is why we don't get that as much. Is that
Well, I'm disagreeing with this question. I'm saying I think video games do suffer this issue that like music doesn't, and I
mm,
don't think movies might either. I mean, there's an argument to be said about, excuse me, black and white movies. We got color. We got talkies, blah blah blah, stuff like that.
sure,
But I mean, people are still coming out with black and white movies. You can still go watch Citizen Kane, and it looks the same.
right?
Where I'm not going to go out and be like, well, this is just not movies now, kind of thing. This is. But Ocarina of Time, I would say, looks bad. It plays bad. Like that N64 controller is not ideal.
But people still talk highly of it or whatever. Yeah,
I don't know.
weird.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Um, I think Breath of the Wild is one of the best games of all time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Next question from One Press L2P: which game do you wish you could play again for the first time to experience the joy of playing it and or the storytelling twist that you enjoyed so much on your first time playing?
The Metal Gear Solid series. What a
This
ride.
is easy one for me. Ghost Trick. I'm
Ghost
literally
Trick.
waiting to forget it, and I've forgotten quite a bit about it. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
wait to finally get back to that. I'm probably do this with a lot of like game story heavy games. Like
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if I revisited the Ace Attorney games in a decade or so.
Yep.
But Ghost Trick for the most part is like my number one with a bullet.
Uh-huh. I'm trying to
Actually, I
think.
was just saying this to a coworker. I wish I completely had forgotten about Titanfall 2 so I could experience that again.
Titanfall 2 was a
Not for the
good
story
one.
or anything. I don't care about that. Just those levels.
Good. Yep.
Man.
That's a good game. Yep.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I guess like what's your favorite game? Like would you not want to experience that thrill again for the first time is the answer. Like I could say
Well,
this about most of my favorite games.
right. See, the reason I didn't play, say, Burnout Paradise is I did. I got the
Uh-huh.
remaster like a decade
Uh-huh.
later,
Yeah.
and it kind of just was like, they didn't do much to this remaster. This game doesn't quite hold up. Like
But
it's
if it
still
was
like
the
I would
first
sorry,
time
I would
though.
say it holds up,
Uh-huh.
but it feels older because it's missing like waypoints and stuff like that. And this is a different conversation, but like some games I feel like need to be improved to keep up with times. Otherwise, they're missing something. Whereas back then, I didn't know I was missing something. That's just kind of where games were.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why I can easily say Ghost Trick because it's just a story game. It's not going to feel off. It's like reading a book.
I think how the way I interpreted this is that like obviously the first Metal Gear Solid game like plays okay to me because I have nostalgia for it, but for everybody else and me the first time now, it would feel like garbage probably. But
Right.
like I like read this as the first time to experience the joy of playing it, in that like if you could relive
You're
that
saying
moment
you like
back
you went
when it
back in
came.
time, basically.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, so you're not playing it now.
No, that's
It's
how I read
you're
it.
playing it when it made sense.
Yeah, getting that experience again, like at that
Then this
time.
just turns into what's your favorite game?
Yeah, totally, right? That's why I was saying that, like, all of my favorite games.
Yeah. So honestly, I think that's a less interesting way to interpret the question, unfortunately.
um Shadow of the Colossus, it had that remaster. Like, I kind of wish I had gotten the punch of that ending again, but you can't because I knew how it ends.
Right. I mean, this is the whole thing about why I try to play games when they're popular, is
Uh
because it kind of like means something at a time
yeah.
that it will lose after the fact. Like I have a coworker who's never played the Uncharted games, and I'm
Oh,
trying to be like, well, two is like the best one, but
yeah.
it's gonna probably feel old at this point.
Yeah.
But like two was such a thing at the time.
For
This is
me,
kind of getting into our Ocarina of Time question, like
yeah.
again, basically. Um, so so I guess this is me kind of saying I feel like playing games not when they're super popular, I feel like you're missing out on them. But I know that's a place of privilege that I'm able to
Totally.
buy games new. And most people play older games and stuff.
How much do you think the zeitgeist of a game is about this too? Like being able to just chat with your friend who is playing it at the same time and just be like the fact that you and I, before we went live here, talked about the ending of Cadence of Hyrule. Like, and
Right? Yeah. I mean that's kind of what I was just getting at.
yeah,
I would be having a fundamentally less interesting time with Mario Maker 2
yeah.
if people weren't sharing stages on Twitter every single day.
Like, why aren't we talking about Mario Maker 1? Right? Like, that's the thing. You could go back and
Yep.
play Mario Maker 1. That's still there. You could experience every level from that game for the first time. You know why people aren't? Because people aren't talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
And this is going to be different for people. There's going to be
yeah.
people like a normal, when we're talking about the normies, they could care less what's popular right now. They went into the GameStop, they
Yeah.
picked out the one that their friend said was cool and that their friend wants to play with them. That's the game they're playing. And guess what? It's Call of Duty from 2 years ago. Doesn't matter. That's the one their
Right.
friend
And
thinks is the
they
best.
still
That's
love
the one
it.
they're playing.
Yeah.
And they're going to love it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be sitting here and I'm going to be playing the latest Call of Duty,
Yeah.
getting a part of the discourse. And to me, that's really important. Obviously, I have a video game podcast,
Yeah.
so being like is important to me.
Uh-huh.
But I would say I bet for like 80% of the people out there, they could care less. Whatever it's what's the cheap one? That's the one my friend says to get.
Yeah.
Boom, done. I'm a gamer, and that's
I'd
fine
be
too.
I'd be interested
It's
to
gonna be
hear what
yeah.
people listening have to say about that. Like, hit us up on Twitter or something. I'm interested to see like how much that impacts their playing of something. I think it does more than people think. Frankly, like,
I think a lot of our audience plays older games. I'm almost certain of that.
yeah,
And I see this a lot when we do our community game of the year polls. A lot of people are
yeah,
just like, I didn't play a lot from this year, and
and
that's
that's
fine.
fair because
And
when I didn't play a lot of
hopefully,
games when I was in college as well. Like,
see, I played more games when I was in college. I got
oh
pretty
really?
lucky with that.
Okay,
But that's definitely probably a reason people listen to this podcast. It's why I listen to some other podcasts, is to kind of keep up with stuff that I'm not caught up on.
okay,
And I bet a lot of our listeners do that.
yeah, and like we also, like you have said many times, we have to remember we are such in a minority of like
Yeah.
of
And this is why
people.
Twitch is obviously popular. Like people watch more games than they play, and
Sure,
that's a way to experience games. Sure.
sure, yeah, for sure. We are too privileged to the point where I won't actually listen to other video game podcasts anymore because I just want to experience all of it for myself. And I'm in the position where even when things are a little tight, I'm able to budget a game a month
I
easily.
listen to so many video game podcasts.
Oh, really? You don't? Here's a question for you. Do you ever just get sick of hearing people talking about this? Because here's the thing, right? The news cycle happens, a new game comes out, every video game podcast is talking about that video game. Do you ever get
I
sick
love
about
it.
just hearing people talk about that same game?
No,
Really? Interesting.
no,
Okay.
that's like my life, man. If I were
Well,
to
I
take a
know
think
that
of it, I
it's
would have done it a
literally
long
your
time ago.
job, but like,
It is also my job.
yeah, interesting. See, I couldn't stand that. I kind of like want to talk about video games. I mean, this is why I'm here. I want to talk about video games with people. I don't want to hear people talk about video games. Is it
I'm both.
okay? Fair. Interesting.
Just want it all over my face.
Oh, gross. All right. Kevin wrote in and said, oh, two questions. One, if one looks through a comic book while just looking at the pictures and not actually reading anything, is it acceptable for them to say they have completed the comic book? Completed the comic book, by the way, is like the weirdest way to ever talk about comics.
This comic is completed. Into the fire.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's crazy. Because at the end of the day, book is part of that name. You should read some of it.
There are comics without words.
Sure. Those are specifically made for that purpose. I think he just means like, can you pick up the latest Thor? I don't know why I went to Thor. Can you pick up the latest Thor comic and know what's happening by watching him throw his hammer or her throw her hammer around a bunch?
I'm gonna be on the side of, because I think the way you can extrapolate this is, I watched someone play through all of Life is Strange 1 on the internet.
Uh-huh.
Does that count as me like experiencing that game?
This is where you and I are fundamentally different, because I say no.
And I say there are, in the past maybe not, but there are different ways people can experience games.
Uh-huh.
And I want to say, like, if this is doing something for you, then who am I to say
sure
that was worse?
Sure, but like, I guess it's acceptable to say that you've even read the comic book if you haven't like even looked at the comic book. I don't give a shit if it makes you feel good or whatever. But like, sorry, I keep getting hung up on.
You didn't read the comic because you didn't read.
Yeah,
but that's specific for this one. Read his second one because it's kind of a similar question, and then we'll talk about the whole thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Also completed the comic book. I keep getting hung up on because that's just such a funny way to say that.
Sure.
Okay, so the second part of the question or whatever is, if one plays through a story heavy... Oh, I see. If one plays through a story-heavy RPG while skipping all of the cutscenes, which in this particular example makes up 1/4 of the playtime, is it acceptable to say they have completed the game? You know what? I'm going to change this question a little bit to make it a little more similar to his first part. Let's say instead of, in this particular example, 1/4 of the playtime, let's say half. So you are
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't matter that much, but for me, when you're talking about video games, playing is more important than anything. So 1/4, I'm saying that you still have 75%. So the half is for me personally to make this make more sense.
So okay, they skipped all the cutscenes. Did they play the game?
Yes, because they still played the game, but they didn't experience like the full thing. And you know what? That's the same answer with the comic book. Like, you saw the cool stuff, but like you didn't experience the story, I guess is the thing.
What if the comic was written in a way where they could pick up on what the story was? Much like a comic that doesn't have words.
So, if you played a story-heavy RPG where you could still pick up what's going on by not knowing...
Yeah, it doesn't have to be story-heavy. They played some game where they skipped the stereotypical cutscene narrative, but they were able to pick up what's going on through, I don't know, context cues, maybe in-fight banter, some other thing that was outside of the cutscene while they were just playing the like hands-on approach.
Mm-hmm. It's weird comparing the two because for me, like I said, gameplay comes first with a video game. With a comic book, for me, the reading part comes first, and the pictures are like part of that. Like, I like this like dumb little stories and the weird banter the characters have, and then the pictures like kind of supplement that. So for me, when I'm reading this question, seeing that it's a two-parter, part one is fundamentally missing the thing I care about, and part two is fundamentally giving me the thing I care about. That's why this is a hard question for me personally.
So you're valuing the story over the gameplay?
Yeah, because it's two different mediums. Like, I like this. in the comic book, I like the story stuff more. In a video game, I like the gameplay stuff more.
Okay,
That's
what if
why
it is
this
a
is weird.
what if it is
Like a visual novel.
a visual novel? I actually want to say, what if it's an FMV game where the gameplay is hit the A button?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of those for sure.
And I know you like those.
Like which
Are you
ones?
still valuing the gameplay over the story here?
Um, like
You will play the shape-shifting detective, you'll skip all the cutscenes, but you will definitely hit A when you're allowed to.
I've definitely skipped some cutscenes in story games like that for sure.
Well, I'm asking you. You skipped all the cutscenes in Shapeshifting Detective. You
All
hit
of them.
all the A buttons you could. Did you beat the game? Did you complete the game if we're going by the terminology?
Um, I mean, yeah, if you're going by the terminology, you beat it, but you didn't experience it fully. I think they're two different things. They're not part of the same thing.
But you don't think they beat the comic,
You
or sorry, in
completed.
this scenario, did they beat the comic but not experience it?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly what I think.
Okay.
Because I can flip through a book as well and look at some words and then throw it away, like any book.
I'll do it right now. Watch me.
Yeah. Do I? I don't even have a book near me right now.
Just try and stop me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the point I'm kind of trying to suss out here is I think games it's going to be a case by case basis. I think everything is going to be a case by case basis because
Totally.
they can be so different. We just compared an RPG to an FMV game, which
Totally.
the gameplay is completely different, and the cutscenes could be theoretically I don't know, hold more value is a bad way of phrasing it, but you kind of get the point.
Sure.
And so I go back to my Twitch example.
Uh-huh.
I feel like there are different ways to experience games at this point.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And this could almost be an accessibility discussion.
Okay.
If we think of Celeste,
Yep.
they had the option of adding an extra jump.
Yep.
Did the person beat the game because they had to turn that on? Did the person experience the game because they had to turn it on? Did they experience the game to the developer's intent?
Yeah, because it was programmed in there. Now, if you were to say it wasn't programmed in there and somebody modded it in, I would still say that they got like probably. Yeah, I know where you're going with this. The accessibility option for sure. Actually, I'll relate it even to this. Can you read a comic book if you don't, like a manga, say, if you don't speak Japanese or can't read Japanese by just looking at the pictures? Because that's what you're getting at, right? Like the accessibility. If I sit down with a comic book or something in another language, can I still say that I experienced that by like flipping through and looking at every scene carefully enough to try to suss out what's going on, and then say that like I've read it, even though I didn't actually read it because I can't?
Right. I go back to my original comment of if it's doing something for you, then that's good. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, you shouldn't look at that.
Sure.
Because you can't fully experience it properly. Because then you get into weird stuff of like, you should not play a horror game unless it is midnight and all the lights are turned off.
Yeah.
And there's a storm outside. And it's like, what? Like, is that like that? I don't want to get into a standard of like,
that's too like
proper way to play everything.
That's too purist for sure. See, but like, I would say that if I did that, I fundamentally am missing by not understanding the language, or even understanding it enough that I know some words say, but I don't understand how like the grammar or sentence structure works. I'm still fundamentally missing what makes it like a thing, even though, so like I would still agree that I'm fundamentally missing the experience of it, even though I got through it essentially.
Even if in this scenario, the manga, it was drawn in a way where they picked up on the story.
If it was drawn in the way to pick up on the story, then it was made for people like me, so I didn't fundamentally miss it. I still experienced it.
Okay, so again, we're saying this is going to be on like a comic by comic basis.
Totally.
And I think that's what this turns down to. Which I think like every question we've had this week has turned down to like this is a case by case basis. But no, this is a good conversation.
I'm gonna be real. These questions have been fucking amazing. These have been top.
Yeah, we just need
quality.
John to not be here a little more often.
Oh,
he's always making us talk less.
Wait, what? He's
Yeah,
making
exactly,
us talk less.
um, and I brought up the accessibility part because like
Yeah,
there was something even kind of recently this year when Sekiro came out. A lot
yeah,
of people saying like, I can't play this game; it's too hard. I wish there was an easy mode.
yeah.
And then a number of people coming out being like, that's if there was an easy mode, that you wouldn't be playing Sekiro. This game should stay as is, and you should
Right,
play something else.
right,
And
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 yeah,
and I'm always going to come down on the side of like accessibility is good, more
yeah,
options are good. The more like if it's not hurting you, right? Putting an easy mode in Sekiro is not taking away from your normal mode play, then who cares?
right.
Let's just and that's why I think like you can experience it if you're only getting a part of it, but if that means something to you in some way, then good. I'm glad you had that part.
Right.
And
Where
so I guess
I usually come down on the side of if the developer didn't put an easy mode in, then like it's I guess it's okay to not experience things is where I come down on it. So like I don't the way the developer gives it to you, if we're talking about the Sekiro thing, like if there's no easy I first of all there should be an easy mode because more options is just always better. It's consumer friendly. But if they don't want to put it in, then like and you can't like see it or whatever or
well, 'cause
play it.
here's your scenario. Like
Okay.
they didn't put it in,
Uh-huh.
and I can't play it for in this scenario. I can't play Sekiro. It's too hard.
Sure. Okay.
They don't have an easy mode. I know a way to put an easy mode in it for my copy of the game.
I'm
Should I
okay
do
with
that?
that. Yeah, I'm okay
You're
with
okay?
that. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say no because the developer.
But I
didn't
will
want
say
it.
that your experience is fundamentally different from mine. But obviously. But
For
so
sure. But will you say, did I complete Sekiro?
sure. But I think you and I would have arguments. And that's fine. Because discourse is fine and people don't have to get butthurt about not agreeing on stuff. Whereas like say there's a boss or whatever that took me a while and you're like, oh, that was easy. That would just spark a conversation between us where I'm just like, well, you didn't play it the way it was intended and blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, and that's fine. Like, I would still, I usually go, this is why it's hard to talk about this stuff because I kind of think both are right. And people don't like that. People like when you take a hardline stance. And that's why it's hard to talk about this stuff. I think it's okay for people to experience something in whatever way that makes them happy or feel like they're part of the conversation, as long as they realize that they, like, if they modded it, that they experienced it a way that wasn't intended. Like, it's fine. Both are fine. Should it have an easier mode? Maybe, but it doesn't. So whatever. That's fine too. It's a different thing this way. And people don't like when you take middle approaches to stuff. So that's why I have a rough time in some conversations like this where like both are totally fine. So that's why I have to preface everything with these questions about what I think, obviously. So that's why I'm saying I don't think if you are reading a comic book, not one that's made for people that are like illiterate or not able to read or whatever, or picture book only, but like just a normal comic book, if you are only looking at the pictures, I don't think you're fundamentally getting everything out of it. But yes, you've completed it or experienced it in your way. It's just, yeah.
Sure, and I don't want to dive into this next point too much, but I we could even talk about is the zeitgeist around a game, is knowing that kind of stuff also important for you getting something out of a game?
Again, it's so dependent on, all of this is so dependent on what we're talking about at the time.
Right, like
Yeah.
if I was to say like for my coworker who's thinking of playing Uncharted, like,
Yeah.
well, you know, you're not really going to get the Uncharted 2 experience that we all got because you're not at the time and place. You didn't play through Uncharted 1.
Right.
Uncharted 2 is just going to seem like a normal thing. It's not going to seem like this water breaking moment.
Right.
So is his playthrough inferior to mine? If I'm using like more
again,
terms.
this is where it gets weird because with technology, I can go back and listen to what Ryan Davis thought about Uncharted from Giant Bomb. Like, I can have that experience of people talking about it because it's saved on the internet. It's a weird situation. Like, it's super odd. You can't be part of that conversation in the same way you could have been. But, like, you could talk to people and, like, honestly, if you talk to me right now about Uncharted 2, I'll be less excited about it than when it came out, obviously. Or, actually, Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is a good example for this. If you just played through Mass Effect 2 now, and you're super stoked because you liked a bunch of stuff it did, like, I played Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda, so I'm a little less stoked about where that thing went. So our conversation is fundamentally different than if I had just played it as well. But the nice thing about the internet is you can find these niche communities of people where you will meet somebody who also hasn't played something. And I think this is what TDP Plus also helps with you guys can play the game that we're going to talk about with us. And you can hear about John talk about it because he played it 10 years ago. Sean is like played it maybe.
He's still playing it every week.
Yeah, Sean just played it like maybe a year ago, and I never had even heard of it, and I just played it. Like, you can get different perspectives.
This is like the whole point of like
yeah,
book clubs. Obviously, this is the reason why when you're growing up, everyone has to read Shakespeare.
Yep.
And why those conversations are going to change year after year because the world is changing, but the work's not. And that's going to lead to different discussions.
Basically, what I'm saying is subscribe to TDP Plus Patreon. Make sure you play the games with us. And like, this is actually legitimate. This isn't part of the shilling, but like it kind of is as well. I really, really would like people to actually like vote for the games that they think they might play with us. Play the game through that month at some point and be part of that conversation, because it's like Sean, John, and I all know each other very well. What's super interesting to us is when we get feedback from people we don't know at all about stuff, about what we think, and like being part of that conversation. Because like I kind of know an idea of what Sean's going to feel about something, and then we can talk it out, and that's the point of the conversation, like the point of TDP every week. But like I really like the community aspect, and like this is why we do the live show. I like when people like chat about what we're talking about, some different perspectives or different ideas are brought up, and like I would really enjoy if more people participated in the like it, even if you're not a subscriber, just like play the game with us and at some point give your opinion on it and stuff like that. So like I really, really enjoy that sort of thing. Or even just hit me up on Twitter. Like, if you don't subscribe or whatever and you see that we're going to be... Do we know what we're playing this month again? I can't actually remember.
Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire. Like, if you've played Slay the Spire, write in, like, put on the headline, like, TDP Plus, like, Slay the Spire thoughts or whatever. We'll save that stuff, because I really, really enjoy that. Or tweet at me. Well, like, what do you think? And, yeah, I just want people to be... I like these conversations. I want people to join in more, is what I'm getting at.
All right, I'm going to do this last question. Comes in from, I'm going to say Kerosi, something like that. It's for me specifically, but we'll open it up. Curious to know if you play Time Spinners, a new Metroidvania that's almost like Mega Man X and Final Fantasy. Really good game. We had someone, speaking of the Patreon, submit Time Spinners for a number of months in a row, and unfortunately it wasn't winning the polls. I'm definitely interested in Time Spinners. I haven't played it myself. It's coming to Game Pass, so like get ready to hear me talk about Time Spinners, basically.
That's been on my backlog for a while now. I'm super interested in that game as well. I have been secretly hoping it would win one of the times it was submitted for Patreon, so it would give me motivation to play it over other stuff, but no dice yet. But yeah, I'm with you.
All right, that's it for questions this week. If you want to send in questions for next week, it is topdownperspective@gmail.com, at TDP Podcast on Twitter, the Discord channel, or John's P.O. Box. What's your game of the week?
I'm going to give it to Cadence this week. Great ending.
And I'm going to give it to Mario Maker again. If you're a Patreon top tier subscriber, I'll put up that submission thread tomorrow. So start thinking about what game you want to submit for the poll, because that'll be coming in the following week. And I don't know when John's back. You guys probably know better than I do, so you can tell me when John's back.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Bye.